Welcome to The Walkthrough with 5-Star Preps, the ultimate weekly live show that dives deep into the heart of high school football right here in East Tennessee. Powered by Triple F Training. Train like a pro. Each week, Jesse Smithey and the 5-Star Prep team takes you beyond the gridiron and into the stories that define Fall Friday nights in the hills of the Great Smoky Mountains. From the thrilling touchdowns to the hard-hitting tackles and the unsung heroes who make every game unforgettable, we've got it all covered. Join Jesse Smithey as he breaks down this week's biggest games, highlights the standout performances, and gives you the most comprehensive high school football coverage in East Tennessee. Now, catch us live on The Walkthrough, presented by Triple F Training.
Good evening and welcome into the Walkthrough Week 9 presented by Triple F Paige Dower alongside Jesse Smithey. It's always nice being in here. It's house. It's actually a little quieter tonight. I think we're starting a little later.
Eerily quiet in here tonight.
And it only means one thing,
yeah,
right?
it's Halloween, close to Halloween. They got the scary thing up there. I always think of that scary thing up there by the door at Triple F. And I learned tonight that Lee Smith, the owner of this place, loves Halloween. And so that's, if you come into Triple F, there's this huge, it's like a sackcloth on it.
Like you.
And it's just like a sackcloth scare. I don't know, we're getting way off topic, but it's quiet in here, but it's also still busy. They're doing their Bible study. The pizzas are here, the kids are here, and they're learning. And when we show up and start setting up, they're pushing sleds, they're playing basketball, they're doing everything they need to do. So it's a great place. People don't just train preseason and then play out the year. They're constantly taking care of their bodies, and the people here know exactly what to do for each kid, how to tailor the workouts to those kids, make sure they're maximizing but not overdoing, and that's important.
Yeah, and we have a lot of great content coming up in the show, first starting with an interview with the Bearden quarterback and Thru and a couple other interviews to wait for as well. But I want to get to thoughts on last week's games, because despite 150 teams being off, there was still a lot of chaos in last week's game. I think the first one we should talk about is, of course, Brentwood Academy and Catholic.
Yeah, so I have separate, angry thoughts on all those buys coming up in week 8 and week 9, but we still got really good football games. BA and Catholic was good for a half. We saw Tyreek King go off for 190 yards in the first half, touchdowns, getting balls down into the red zone for Catholic. Catholic cannot capitalize on those opportunities. Meanwhile, George McIntyre, the Tennessee prospect commitment that we talked about on last week's show, really performed well in that intense spotlight. Josh Heupel was there. There were so many Tennessee players there, fans there. 17 of 20 throwing the football, 266 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he looked every bit of the part he was supposed to. Throwing the ball on a dime, on the rollout, on the back of the end zone. I mean, really impressed with what he did. Now for Catholic, it all imploded in the second half. BA came out, chewed up the first 6 minutes of the third quarter clock. Next thing you know, Catholic feels like, okay, we're down 2 scores. Let's try to make something happen. That's when mistakes happen. And through kind of back-to-back interceptions, and it was lights out. So Catholic, really tough 3-game stretch coming up. You're talking about McCallie and Baylor and Lipscomb Academy. So they have their work cut out for them going forward.
And kind of compounding on that, they've lost their first 2 region games. They've now lost their last 4 games. You mentioned the tough road ahead. I mean, how do you stay locked in for this season knowing that you've not had success yet in the way that you want to, and it's only going to get tougher?
Right. I think this Lipscomb Academy game coming up is key for Catholic in terms of just psyche. It's a game where you look at Lipscomb Academy's schedule and go, okay, they're not the juggernaut that they were under Trent Dilfer. It's a very winnable game for Catholic. Try to get a win and get some belief going. Now, nobody's going to pick them to beat Baylor. Nobody's going to pick them to beat McCallie. But you know what? Nobody picked them to go to the state semifinals last year either, and they did that. So it's been a year where things went awry for Catholic. Jaden Neal, their all-time leading passer, he's been on the field, off the field, just never fully recovered from that injury. And the departure of Braylon Harmon off to Tennessee, I think, left a gaping hole in the playmaker department for Catholic. So But again, it's just try to find a way to win that Lipscomb Academy game and see what happens.
At this point, the page is well turned and they are looking into next week. But then let's say on last week, a couple more minutes, really close games, a number of them in 1-point margins. Interestingly enough, a pair of them 15-14 scores. The first one we'll start with was Lanier City and Clinton.
And the reason I bring up all these games because basically I lost them all in the picks. Lanier City, Clinton, Oliver Springs, Whitwell, Pigeon Forge, Meigs County. I lost all of those 1-point games.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
I think the only 1-point game that I won was Union County and Scott.
Yeah.
But again, not a lot of games played last week, but we still got some drama, and that's pretty cool because I was really worried about just the overall product that we're going to get on the field this past Friday night. But Lanier City, Clinton, that was huge for Lanier City. They won 4 games in a row now. They are tied atop the region with Oak Ridge, and Oak Ridge got some bad news this past Friday. Our friend Will Presley, who was here and did an interview with us, he got injured in that loss to Farragut, and so we're kind of wondering if or when, if he does return at all this year. I think it might be a collarbone, we'll see, but just a huge blow to Oak Ridge in that game. But for Lanier City, the door is definitely open now for them to possibly get a 1 seed. And who would have thought that in Scott Cummings' first year?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, too. They've held their last 4 opponents to 14 points in each of those games, which is pretty awesome. Our next one, you mentioned it, Oliver Springs, Whitwell. That was an Oliver Springs win, narrowly, 29-28.
Yeah, I was getting some text updates down there, and their quarterback from Whitwell, 6'4", 6'5", 230-pound kid, broke a long touchdown. It looked like it was game over. Oliver Springs said no, it's not. Yeah, we're going to throw a 54-yard touchdown pass, and oh, by the way, we're going to go for 2 and win on your home and win on your home field. So Oliver Springs, they have wins over South Pittsburgh and Whitwell. Those are 2 programs in Chattanooga that are championship caliber programs. And so now they head into next week's showdown against Coalfield really, really confident. Yeah,
so we'll come back to Oliver Springs later in the show as well. Pigeon Forge and Meigs County. Pigeon Forge won 15-14.
Yeah, just an absolutely huge win for Pigeon Forge. They were so excited, and we've talked about Meigs County and their quarterback, Tough Ricker, and how good of a football player he is. And again, nobody was saying Pigeon Forge is going to be what they are this year. We talked about them at the midpoint of the season, one of our surprise teams, and they're continuing that into the second half, and that's what Scott Meadows, the head coach there, this is his last year, he's retiring. Could we might be seeing a little storybook Cinderella story going on here with Pigeon Forge? We'll keep our eye on it.
Our other one is Union County, Scott. Union County won 30-29.
Yeah, just again, another 1-point game. Union County down on its luck this year, and that was a game that could have gone either way, and not just because of the final score, but just given what those 2 teams are this year. And so congratulations to Union County on winning that. That means the world up there to win.
Yeah, absolutely. A surprise win as well. Bearden getting a solid and much-needed win. They defeated Cleveland 38-19.
After I picked Bearden on the show last week, I went home and I was like, man, I maybe should not have done that, because when you look at Cleveland's prospects and all the college football prospects you have, and then you look at Bearden dealing with injuries, and you're going, this game's on the road, it's at Cleveland. Cleveland hasn't beaten them the last few years. Cleveland's on the way up. Just everything was pointing toward Cleveland in that game, and Bearden just went down there and absolutely smacked him in the mouth. Drew Parrott got the start at quarterback, 16-22 throwing the football, over 200 yards passing, few touchdowns. He ran the ball effectively. Torrey Beaufort, who we're used to seeing in the pass game catching balls, he had over 100 yards rushing in that game, and Damian Lavelle had over 100 yards receiving. It was just a complete effort, and that motivation of them just wanting that home playoff game just really carried them to victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Drew Parrott, the quarterback that quarterbacked them to victory, Jesse Smithey had a chance to talk to the quarterback earlier this week.
Drew, big win on the road last week against Cleveland. How much did your maturity pay off of that? I mean, you've kind of seen it all in high school football.
Yeah, I've played multiple positions so far. I've caught touchdowns, ran touchdowns, but, my experience at quarterback probably helped us a little bit this week. Historically knowing what Cleveland's defense does, they play a lot of man-to-man, and I knew what to do against them, knew a lot of the answers to their defense, so experience definitely helped a lot. Knowing who to get the ball to, what my matchups were, watching a lot of film helped a lot.
And I was trying to decide who I might want to pick in that game. You could see all the prospects that Cleveland had, but one of the things I mentioned is just how motivated y'all would be to get a home playoff game. Yeah. Was that the message last week, or just what was y'all's motivation going in that game?
Definitely a home playoff game was a big part of our motivation, but really just to stay really just to go one loss in the region this year. You know, obviously Maryville's a really good team, but I feel like one of our goals this year was to get a home playoff game, make a deep run in the playoffs, and keep the ball rolling from there.
What is key, like you kind of mentioned it there before, Beard, kind of going forward, you got Oak Ridge this coming week, not a region game, but some big games coming up, kind of finish out the right way.
We got to stay consistent in practice, got to stay consistent in games, you know, can't miss assignments from now on. I feel like now, since we're later into the season, you know, we've got to make consistency key, and, you know, can't have bad practices, can't miss tackles, can't miss blocks, stuff like that.
Yeah, great interview with Thru Parrott there. That win also propelled them in this week's power rankings from the bottom of the barrel to number 8.
Yeah, they were right there on the cusp at number 12, kind of reeling after that loss to Maryville. Now they jump up 4 spots, and you're going, okay, Bearden might be fixed now. So they're now number 8, huge jump in this week's 5-Star Preps power rankings.
Everything else pretty much in this rankings is pretty much the same, but it's the bottom that is quite interesting. You look at Loudon at, I think, the 11th spot. This is their first time in here. So what did you see from them last week that put them in, took others out?
Yeah, so again, another team that's just been right there on the precipice of getting into the top 12. They're undefeated this year, and they're playing great offense. They're playing lights out on defense. Many teams are struggling to score against Loudon. I think they're only allowing like 6.9 points per game. So an unbelievable defensive effort for Loudon this year, and just felt like at this point in week 9, they deserve some respect. So, so Oak Ridge had to come out. The loss to Farragut was just inexplicable. Didn't see that one coming. And then Catholic drops out there, I think 3 and 4 now.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, I know we say 6.9, which is obviously less than a touchdown, but sometimes those averages don't always really show you what's going on. Their last 3 games, they've not given up a touchdown.
Yeah, and some of those games that they did give up touchdowns, maybe it was deep in the 4th quarter when some backup guys were in there. So it just hats off to Loudon. They deserve to be in there this week.
Yeah. Rounding out the group at number 12 is Oliver Springs, who, of course, we mentioned in our Week 8 thoughts, has absolutely dominated their way, especially through region play, now earning that 12th spot.
Yeah, I just, again, so impressed by the win on the road at Whitwell, a team that's so highly thought of and has such a great quarterback, and to do that, it takes a really special group, and they're showing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be right back. When we come back, we'll have a really nice video from the Carnes football team. You'll want to stay here and catch that when we come back.
shop at Elliott's. Your journey is our purpose.
North Knox Siding and Windows is a complete exterior home improvement company that can help you with all your exterior needs. Visit us today at 5618 North Broadway.
Yeah, so that was really just an incredible moment seeing Coach Lee Warren getting the Gatorade bath after a solid win that truly really secures them a spot in the playoffs.
Right, yeah, because Campbell County's not a team that you celebrate beating with Gatorade bath, given what happened with Campbell County this year and their struggles. But as you mentioned, it's a meaningful moment for Carnes, pretty much assuring them a spot in the postseason. And that's meaningful because they lost their stud running back, Doug Turner, early in the season. And he's a guy that I saw in week 1. I'm like, wow, I really like this kid. He ran the ball hard, somebody they could depend on throughout the year, and he gets hurt, and then that kind of leaves them searching for answers. Yeah. And they found a way to work themselves into the postseason. So that's just a cool moment to see.
Yeah, also coming up, we'll have an interview with the Grace Christian head coach and Justin Price, so definitely stay tuned for that. I do want to do a quick little win-loss preview. Okay. A redemption moment for you, mind you, because of last week. We'll start with Oak Ridge and Bearden. It kind of seems maybe two teams that are trending in opposite directions, but might be meeting at just the perfect time where they're about even.
Yeah, I want to see what Oak Ridge does without their star wide receiver. And in the second half last week against Farragut, they didn't have many answers for that. They weren't really running the ball all that effectively. And Malik Howard, the star tight end, I know they were trying to effort to get him the ball and just weren't able to do that as much. So maybe he takes on a more prominent role as the lead playmaker in that pass catching department. We'll see. But this is a game that Bearden won last year, late in that game at Blankenship Field. I just feel like with that win over Cleveland, even though this is not a region game for either team, that Bearden has that feel good, has that belief going, and that matters at this time of the year. I like Bearden to win this football game.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick there. I'll check mark that for us so we can go back next week. Okay. Our next one is Powell and Central. Central, it's 2015 all time in their favor, but Powell, they've won the last 2 meetings.
Yeah, and then a lot of teams coming off of bye weeks last week. I think Powell's one of those teams. So just, again, you got a championship caliber staff and head coach in Matt Lowe that you're giving ample time to prepare for a Central team. Powell will be ready for that football game, and Powell's one of these teams in 5A that has a really legitimate chance to get to Chattanooga. Now, 5A is kind of completely wide open. There's just so many contenders, and I think Sevier County might have a say in things, and West will have a say in things. But Powell right now has got to be at the lead of the pack when you talk about 5A contenders. This next stretch is absolutely critical for them that they go into the postseason just like they have played the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, so you're going to take Powell?
I'm going to take Powell in this game.
All right, you're going to take Powell in this game. Our next one is AC and West. So West has won the last 4 meetings, but they took a break after the 2013 season. They won in 2023, so rivalry maybe trying to be renewed.
Yeah. Renewed?
Yes. Renewed. That didn't sound right, but we'll roll with it.
Yeah, this is a tough one. It was a tough game last year. Anderson County had its chances, and I think it kind of kicked itself a little bit, knowing that it had an opportunity to last year defeat
it was a wonky game.
defeat a defending champion and a team that went on to win another state championship. So Anderson County, I think, offensively is in a much better space than West is. So I like that going into this game. I feel like they have enough playmakers to have answers for West's defense approach, and it's going to be hard. West is going to make it difficult for them defensively. I think we can all agree on that. I just feel like Anderson County might have the edge in this game this year. Yeah. It's going to be a fun game. Is that the Thursday night game this week? Is it?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, either way, it's a massive matchup between 2 high quality programs, Anderson County in 4A, West in 5A. And who knows? We talked about it last week. West needs that light bulb moment again. It came in this game last year. Maybe it happens again, but I'll take Anderson County to win it.
All right, our next one is Cleveland at Maryville. This one we've talked about a couple of times, especially our last show with it being kind of those playoff seeding implications.
Yeah, and Maryville's going to come into this game extremely motivated
Yeah.
to capitalize on this opportunity to be a 1 seed. That did not happen for them last year. That was an atypical year for Maryville. They're not used to having to go on the road or struggle to lock down a playoff seeding late in the year. Now they have an opportunity to be Maryville again, kind of put their foot on their throat and really finish the deal. So Cleveland going to be reeling a little bit. They need to get this upset win, to kind of get back into the mix for a top seed. But I just like Maryville too much in this game.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Of course, Maryville won 34-7 a year ago, but the coaches, they're 1-1 right now. So it could be interesting the way this goes.
Yeah.
Another great game that might be flying under the radar for some is, of course, Grace Christian and Webb.
Yeah, this is the one that I've been flip-flopping on all week long and all weekend long about who I'm going to take in this game. You have Webb, who I was really big on coming into the year, was not big yet on Grace Christian, really wanted to wait and see approach.
Yeah.
But then Webb lost its first 2 games. You had Gregory Tate go down with injury, and just some different things happened here and there with the quarterback position. It all kind of came unraveled a little bit for Webb early on. Meanwhile, Grace Christian, it's just been catching lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
It's just everything's kind of gone their way. A lot of fun to watch on offense, stars everywhere. We'll talk with Justin Price about that in a minute, but Webb has gotten better, and that's made this game more meaningful, impactful in region seeding. But I like the home field advantage that I saw at Grace Christian when I went out to their game against CAK. It's going to be even more electric, more raucous in that game coming up this Friday night. So give me the Grace Christian Rams.
Okay.
Webb's going to make it difficult. Shavar Young needs to get the ball as much as possible for them and to keep them close. But I like Grace Christian to win this football game.
What I really liked about it too is, of course, Webb won a year ago, 42-9, but Grace Christian, they're averaging over 44 points a game this season. So they've got an offense to match.
They do, and they have a really good defense. And we'll talk with Justin Price about that, about Nick Crading coming in, helping out the defensive staff. And so it just seemed like they have some pieces in place on the field and with the coaching staff to really make it a special season.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've teased it enough. Let's get to the interview with Jesse Smithey and Justin Price.
All right, Justin, welcome into the walkthrough. Your first appearance here in Triple F. What do you think of the place?
Man, it's a beautiful place, and here's my first time in here. It's nice.
Yeah, so we loved having them as our host for the show, and excited to have you tonight on the program. And obviously, big game coming up with Webb. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's talk about Grace Christian football on the whole. I mean, undefeated start. I'm sure when you took over this, you weren't thinking, man, we could be 7-0 going in this game. What were your short-term goals when you took over this program?
Well, I think when you take over a program, first you're so focused on instilling your DNA, like what's your core values. So you kind of focus on a lot of those areas that you think, that are going to last you long term. Obviously you want to work on scheme and building your toughness and physicality, but I think instilling that culture that you're trying to create is kind of your priority. Obviously you want to go in and win every game, but obviously to have the start that we have is pretty special, and I don't think it's something we predicted when we took the job.
One of the things we've discussed in previous episodes of this show was Weston Edmondson at quarterback. His natural IQ, his smarts, and his football smarts. For high school kids to come in, new coach, new lingo, new jargon, just new way of doing things, seeing things offensively. How impressed have you been by him in terms of kind of flushing the old stuff and taking on new?
Yeah, like you said, Weston's just such a high thinker. I mean, he's very analytical. He's a problem solver, natural leader. He's kind of the guy that's, when he walks into the room, he everybody's going to listen to see what he's doing, what he's got to say. And, so when we came in, we knew that his skill set fit what we like to do offensively. But, in high school, you got to adjust to what you have. And, Weston, he's been at Grace his entire life, and you can just tell the motivation, desire he has to create a special season for Grace and really help what we think is going to build us for the future. He's got that in him, and, we just leaned on him so many times, just one with his skill set on the field. Obviously he can make all the throws. He's throwing on time. He's built a great rapport with all the receivers. But it's really off the field what you see, the way he's bought into what we wanted to do. And, and just the energy he brings and the passion he has for Grace, and it's just spreading all through our program.
Is he still rocking his mustache right now?
Yeah, he's still got it.
Okay.
It looks good.
Might be a little magic in that. Terrion Thomas is a guy that it seems like every week it's 2 touchdowns rushing or 2 touchdowns receiving. His versatility within your offense, how excited does that make you guys as play callers?
Yeah, when we got there, we knew T was going to be a really good player, but to see him live in action, it's impressive to see. If you've not seen him in person, you got to see it. I mean, his ability to stop and go and his vision when he gets in the second and third level is incredible. And I think that you see that when he gets the football, whether it's we hand it to him or throw it to him. I mean, he's literally got the ability to score every time he touches the football. And so we try to get him the ball as many times as we can in the game. But also he kind of dictates. Sometimes the defense try to take him away, but. With his versatility, we can kind of move him around so much. So we're still being able to get him the football. I mean, he's, one of the leading receivers in the area and one of the leading the rushers. And, that just shows what type of skill set he has.
A couple of minutes ago, you mentioned your wide receiver. And when I went to your CAK game, it felt like there were 2, 3, 4, 5 different guys catching meaningful passes in that game. How deep is that group? And who are a few of the guys that have really stood out this year?
Yeah, it's a very deep room. I mean, when you look at our receivers, we got 4. I mean, we got 5. The 5 guys we start with. I mean, we feel confident in all of them getting the football. I mean, we had Pierce Stiltner at Austin East a couple weeks, or our last game had 200 yards receiving, and going the game we didn't expect that. It's just one. It allows us to open up the entire playbook with Weston's skill set plus the dynamic receivers that we have, and we got a couple guys that aren't playing as much that we feel comfortable with them getting the ball too. So, but I think when you look at obviously Terrion's done it really well. Caden Weber at receiver, started out. Had like 6 or 7 touchdowns, like 3 or 4 games, and he's a running back type mentality out wide. So when he catches the football, he's a one cut and go. And so we obviously have his skill set. Blake Perkey was the leading receiver for Grace last year, so his experience is invaluable this season. And he's probably the most polished receiver when you look at his route running, beating man coverage. And we got Braden Ray, who's a 6'3", 200-pound guy. So you create a mismatch over there if you single up on him. And so I don't know, when you look at that whole room and you put their skill set together, they complement one another. And so our job is, calling plays is just try to find out how do we get those guys the ball and where they're comfortable at.
I think one of the aspects of your football program that many people forget about is you look at what Central High School did in 2018 and 2019. Nick Craney was a defensive coordinator there when they won championships. He's a part of y'all's defensive staff, working alongside of your brother. What have you seen out of that group?
Yeah, I think when you look at our team, also our offense is scoring over 40 a game, and West and all those guys are playing great. But, man, the way our defense has performed this year, it's awesome to see. When you look at the way, you look at the stats from the previous year, they struggled a little bit on defense. And I think when we got the job and we reached out to Coach Craney, we had coached against him a couple times. And, calling plays like when you go against Central, they're going to be good on defense. And, it just worked out. He was transitioning out of being the head coach at Central, and man, we just made it work. And man, he's just been a blessing to have. And his mindset. Him and Matt are over there Matt's doing more of the secondary. He's doing the front 7, and man, they're just dialing it up. And first time I noticed in spring practice when we were going against each other, and Sprouse calling plays, Kearney was calling the defense, and we were kind of going back and forth a little bit. So it's it sharpened me a little bit, but what Nick brought to us at Grace has just been invaluable.
Mm-hmm. Undefeated, 7-0, and looking ahead to this closing stretch here in the regular season, big game with Webb coming up. How do you get those guys to not get overexcited, kind of take care of the task at hand? This is a big game coming up this week.
Yeah, we talk with our kids. One, they've earned this platform that we're going to have Friday. I think it's good for our program. It's good for our school. It's really good for East Tennessee high school football when we have games like this. And so, I think the key is it's all about the process of preparation. It's coach taught, but you have to approach every week the same. But I don't think you can hide from what this game means. We talk a little bit about our kids. We're playing Webb. Obviously, they're historically just a phenomenal program. We know they got great players. They got great coaches. But to just stay with what we can do. Focus on how we can be the best version of ourselves this Friday. And our kids have continued to do that and not get caught up in too much of the hype. I want them to enjoy the rankings a little bit and the stats, but because it's high school football and these kids need to, they like to see our name and Grace and the players get that recognition. But at the same time, it's keeping the chemistry of our program as strong as we can, and a lot of that you just have to take the outside noise away and focus on what we can do to keep getting better.
Well, Justin, man, appreciate you coming
Thanks,
down
Jesse. I appreciate it, man.
Joining us on the show. And I'm going to be out there Friday night. I'm already looking forward to that game. And so don't you guys go anywhere. When we come back, more to talk about with Week 9 right here on the walkthrough.
When you shop at Elliott's, your journey is our purpose.
North Knox Siding and Windows is a complete exterior home improvement company that can help you with all your exterior needs. Visit us today at 5618 North Broadway.
Is brought to you by Smart Bank. Play smart, bank smart. Smart Bank. For more information, visit smartbank.com.
Well, welcome back. Of course, those were some highlights from the Rockwood and Harriman game that I hope you guys were enjoying. I know that was a game you were looking forward to a week ago, the state's oldest rivalry. Just kind of how would you describe that game if you could?
Yeah, just two communities where a rivalry really means something. They get there early. The student sections were crazy into it. They crashed our site last week, just coming in to vote for student section of the week, and it just shut down. And then they were calling me, hey, why can't we vote? And you're allowing that other school to vote. You felt the intensity of that game
That's awesome.
all week long. And then you get there and the student section is going at it. Unfortunately, like we talked about on the show, Rockwood had injuries to their quarterbacks, and they were down to, I think, to their third stringer. So didn't really stand much of a chance against a really good Harriman team. So Harriman won, and you saw that in the video. But I love the small town rivalries, to get out on natural grass fields and just you see the big hump in the field. And so I don't know, I just loved it every now and then. It kind of reminds me of where I grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a fun environment. Like, definitely high school football is like what you're getting out of that for sure. Let's look into next week real quickly. It's our Week 10 preview. You've got HVA, Hardin Valley, and Farragut. Farragut, of course, getting a good win the other week. Just how important, at least maybe for both teams, to try and both edge out a win in this game.
Well, for Hardin Valley, they want to upset things. They want to prevent a rival in Farragut from going to the some chaos. They don't want Farragut going to the postseason. They know they can spoil Farragut's party. So Farragut has turned around their season like nobody I've ever seen. You go into Oak Ridge last week, get up 28-0 in that game. It's insane. So they found a little bit of something in their offense throwing the football, and they're going to carry it on into this game next week and try to earn a playoff spot.
Yep, our other one, it's going to be a good one. Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg-Pittman. This is a rivalry that kind of has been going back for a few years, but it's a long-standing rivalry. Yeah,
just two programs are going to run the football at each other all night. That game might last an hour. It's just going to be running clock all night long of what they like to do offensively. But again, Pigeon Forge having a phenomenal year for Scott Meadows in his final season. Gatlinburg-Pittman getting healthier at the running back spot. So we talked about rivalry with Rockwood and Harriman. It's going to be that way with Pigeon Forge and GP.
Yeah, especially with the way Pigeon Forge is playing, it could be similar to 2021 when they got a nice 17-14 win.
Could be. It'll
over
be tight.
GP. We'll see how that one goes. Our other one we want to preview is, of course, Anderson County and Gibbs. This one obviously has been an Anderson County favorite for a long time. I know Gibbs is on the up and up, 7-0 for the first time in program history. But do you think this is a wash? It goes Anderson County's way, or does Gibbs do something?
Well, I'm not going to underestimate Gibbs because they've been proving people wrong all year. And we've talked about how that program continually gets better each and every year, climbs the ladder a little bit more, and now here they are. And they want to be in this position where they can challenge the Anderson Counties, the Fultons of the world, to be a 1 seed out of that region. So this is going to be a monumental game for both programs next week. Yeah,
a good one coming up as well, as you pick very good games to preview, is Coalfield and Oliver Springs. Of course, Oliver Springs in your top 12 this week, but Coalfield known to give teams issues.
I feel like sending the whole fleet of 5-Star Preps reporters, photographers, videographers, all out for this game. It's been talked about all summer long, all preseason, all early parts of the season, and as both teams continue to win and knock off big time opponents, this game has gotten even bigger, and I can't wait for it. And last year we got 2 editions of it, one in the regular season, one in the playoffs. So I think both teams know that not to put all their eggs in that basket, but there's so much hype around this Coalfield Oliver Springs game. I cannot wait for it.
Yeah, it'll be an exciting one for sure. Our last one to round out the group is Alcoa and Maryville, which what I hear, through the grapevine is you win this one, who cares what else happens?
Yeah, I mean, and for Alcoa, they were supposed to win that game a year ago. Maryville's down, and you know what? They didn't. And so maybe they're out for a little bit of revenge, but Maryville is Maryville again. So I'm used to this game being week 2, week 4, sometimes week 1.
Early in the season.
Here late in the season, Alcoa hasn't been playing that much. They're going to play 2 games next week, actually. Monday against Union County, making one up, and then Friday against Maryville. So we'll see how that comes into play. But it's the Battle of Pistol Creek. You're talking about state championships on state championships between those 2 programs. It's one of the best rivalries in the state.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, too, because you look back to the 2022 game that Maryville lost, it was at home. So almost kind of wanting that revenge back at home for themselves this season.
And we've talked about their want for revenge this year, so they'll derive motivation from somewhere.
That is their motto this season. Well, we appreciate all of you watching. If you missed any of our great interviews from Justin Price or Thru Parrott, we have this episode tonight pinned on all of our social media pages for you guys to go back and enjoy. But thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to 5starpreps.com for all the latest on the high school sports. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Welcome to the walkthrough with 5-Star Preps, the ultimate weekly live show that dives deep into the heart of high school football right here in East Tennessee. Powered by Triple F Training. Train like a pro. Each week, Jesse Smithey and the 5-Star Prep team takes you beyond the gridiron and into the stories that define Fall Friday nights in the hills of the Great Smoky Mountains. From the thrilling touchdowns to the hard-hitting tackles and the unsung heroes who make every game unforgettable, we've got it all covered. Join Jesse Smithey as he breaks down this week's biggest games, highlights the standout performances, and gives you the most comprehensive high school football coverage in East Tennessee. catch us live on The Walkthrough, presented by Triple F Training.
When you shop at Elliott's, your journey is our purpose.
North Knox Siding and Windows is a complete exterior home improvement company that can help you with all your exterior needs. Visit us today at 5618 North Broadway.